It has been a while since I was last able to upload a lore video. Things gotten so busy, but I try to make time to enjoy the fascinating world of Astra. With that said, let's take a look at what our characters has been through, being that this was our first of many updated main story content. After the events that took place in episode 8, some time had passed and we start off in Lumopolis. A Lumo guard was guiding Navigator and Vice as they was entering the Hall of Justice. Vice was telling Navigator about the Hall of Justice and the important people who runs it, one of them being Swartz, who came over and expressed his gratitude. Soon it was time to begin the reason why they came, which was a trial for Carlene. She was standing accused for activating the Sword of Damocles on her own, causing the seal to fall and Eclipsites attacking the city. But due to successfully being able to get rid of the threat that was Scummer and her Avidus, her punishment came down to just being suspended for 1 year, and in the meantime, she had to investigate what led to the attack. Outside the Hall of Justice, Carlene met up with Navigator and Vice. Going over on what happened, Vice easily showed her dissatisfaction with how much Odo was against the verdict, but Carlene didn't think much of it. She even went on to explain her meeting with the City Lord after the trial, asking why he just let Scummer continue to attack the seal. To which, along with some riddles, he replied to her about the shortage of manpower within Lumopolis. Carlene was still confused on the matter as he left her to understand what he meant herself. As that happened, the group went over about how everyone was able to make it out of Avidus before the blast hit. Vivian and Curry are alright, but they're currently staying at a Lumopolis hospital until further notice. Navigator was still iffy about whether Scummer survived or not, seeing as they haven't seen a body yet. Carlene understood his concern, but brought the group over to where Siraj was to explain her mission, whose concepts Navigator still couldn't connect to. It was there that they ran to Gonru and Raphael. The two of them was able to get Siraj back up and fully fixed, thanks to using parts from Mendelssohn's Colossus, Mantis. Gonru explained how the parts of Mantis was similar enough to Siraj for her to fix them. However, there was one part that couldn't be fixed. That was the core to the Echo template, which allowed a Colossus to have a conscience, but neither Navigator or Gonru knew how to fix it. After some reminiscing, Raphael spoke up to Carlene about how Avidus crashed into Eraville, Navigator's hometown. Then Vice mentioned about the think tank module and its function to hold information. That's when Navigator realized they could use a think tank module to find out how to fix Siraj, and with that, the group makes their way to Eraville. It was then that the scene changes to Eraville, where we see Forsaken carrying an injured Scummer who was just barely hanging on. Forsaken explained how Scummer lost and wasn't going to let her die yet, as she still had plans for her, all while Scummer was going in and out of consciousness while being carried in her arms. Later on, the group had finally made it to Eraville. Navigator returned to his hometown for the first time in 17 years. Wanting to tell Carlene and Vice more about Eraville, he asked Siraj to play back the video, forgetting that his Echo template still needs to be fixed. He then started thinking back to when Siraj would play him the video of Eraville, reminiscing about how much of an important part of his life Siraj was. Going a little into detail, like stated before, Eraville was the home of the Callistites. It's located in the south of the world spine, which is located near Northland. Before the incident that caused the extinction of the Callistite race, it was a very peaceful land, and this was due to the mountains that surrounded Eraville, which protected them from Eclipsite attacks up until 17 years ago. Once a beautiful land filled with dandelion flowers, has now become nothing more but a wasteland, with no signs of life whatsoever when the group arrived. There's still more things that I can go into about Eraville, but we're going to save those for a later video when we get into them. Navigator tried to use his psychic power to scan the area, but couldn't pick up anything. That is until the group began to feel the sense of dark flow, as a group of Eclipsites had ambushed and attacked them. While our cast was busy fighting them, we get a quick scene change inside the Avidus, where Forsaken was placing the injured Scummer inside a healing pod. In another part of Eraville, our group wasn't the only one that came to find Avidus, as members of Residual Wrench came to look to take the Black Colossus for themselves. Here we are introduced to more members of the group. First there's Tiny one of the tech personnel within the group. She was raised in a place called Lot Depart, pretty much considered a garbage dump in her word. It was there that she became capable of making all kinds of machinery like her searchlight, until one day she was attacked by a group of Eclipsites. That was when she first met Sinsa, who came down and saved her before taking her back to Residual Wrench with him. The next one we have is Brock, a pretty straightforward guy who's a member of the Loose Screws, a group within Residual Wrench whose main purpose is suppressor fire. He may not be one of the brightest ones within the group, but one thing for sure, he's definitely one of the more highly spirited ones, always eager for a good fight and competing against Sinsa for the title of leader. even though he lost to him over 700 times and counting. Still, can't help but respect the guy's positivity. Third up is Odie, another highly skilled tech personnel just like Tiny One. Interesting thing about Odie is that she's originally from Illumina, born in Undercity 13 and was studying in the Academy. She was on her way to Ganon City before being ambushed by Eclipsites, and by mistake called Resident Wrench for help. They then took her back to one of their bases, where she ended up deciding to stay and fix all their machinery. Next up is Barbara, an idol singer of Resident Wrench, oftentimes seen competing against Regina on who performs the better music, which caused things to get really loud and chaotic. But besides that, she's a very spunky character, always looking to bring smiles with her songs as he claimed. Finally, and the most interesting of the group within my eyes, we have Bopper. As you may have recalled, in my lore video in episode 2, I mentioned that Resident Wrench has their own colossus called Lepidus. They found it one day buried in the sands of the Resident Desert. After digging it out and fixing it up, it turns out that Bopper was the only one Lepidus let pilot it, even though Bopper isn't a Calistite herself. As the group was going around trying to figure out where they were, it was thanks to Brock as they realized they were lost, separated from their other companions, Sinsa and Bopper. While Sinsa and Bopper were looking around for the rest of their group, they ended up falling down a pit. After gathering themselves, they were now on a quest to get back to their comrade. Going back to our main group, they had finally cleared all the enemy Eclipsites. Just when Carlene thought there was one more, in comes Sinsa and Bopper, keeping up his high-spirited attitude even when taking an attack from Carlene. The two groups got together and started reminiscing about what the other was doing. Navigator told Sinsa about his entire adventure since they last met, and Sinsa told him about how they were looking for the Black Colossus after hearing it crash. As everybody decided to work together, in comes more Eclipsites. In the meantime, Forsaken was notified about the appearance of Navigator and his friends, ordering her soldiers to bring them to her. We then go over to a mysterious new place, a secret hideout of the True Order, where we first see the appearance of Victoria. Victoria in outer appearance can be looked at as the leader of the True Order, although she carries with her a black tome called the Black Bible, that we see her referred to as the Lord of Truth, which she not only feeds its seeds, the tome also has the ability to tell future readings, all this due to the pact that she made with it. Victoria also comes from a bloodline that's responsible for her vampire-like abilities, from her blood-like abilities to being immortal through inherited memories, truly considered to be a mysterious beauty. Victoria has sent Faust out to retrieve more seeds, along with other members Pact and Nails. Once he left, Victoria fed the tome the seed that Faust retrieved from Navigator, even started to hold a conversation with it, as although the tome doesn't speak, words will appear inside it to apply to her. Back in Areaville, the group continued while taking out more Eclipsites on their way. Bopper was going around picking up Colossus parts for Lepidus. These were parts that came from other Colossuses from the attack from 17 years ago, and while doing so, she surprisingly picked up a Lumagar badge. Finding it strange that one would be in Areaville, Navigator asked for it and used his psychic scan to see what happened to its owner. The flashback started off where the owner first received their badge and became a Lumaguard. They began to fight invading Eclipsites, but ended up getting captured. That is when Navigator sees Forsaken. He mentioned to the others what he saw, and how the Lumaguard was turned to an Eclipsite by Forsaken, by forcing the seed into them. A very terrifying and shocking reveal to our characters. Carlene, being that she's also a Lumopolis citizen, gave him a farewell speech after Bopper gave back the badge. With all this that happened, it made Navigator think that Scummer was still alive, but before the group can move forward, they get attacked by another Eclipsite that seemed different from the norm, while also speaking their language. This gave the impression that this was also an Orion that was turned to an Eclipsite. Couldn't stand watching it any longer. The group went to put it out of its misery, as it was obvious it was suffering greatly. This made the group more determined to stop Forsaken once and for all. Sinsa asked him about who Forsaken was, to where Vice explained how she was a former Illumina member, who turned over to the Eclipse. This then went to Sinsa going over his distrust for Illumina, how he trusted his sister with them due to her life being in danger. Eventually, he found out about how she was being experimented on and almost died in a fire. Illumina told him that the researcher responsible was dead, but he believed she was still alive. That's when the two put everything together, how Forsaken's real name was Lanier, and she was a researcher who experimented on Eve. This made Sinsa more determined to find Forsaken even more. We next see the scene go back to Avidus. Scummer was asleep in a healing pod, dreaming about the time when she was younger and Areaville was still intact. Scummer was going through a test to link with a Colossus, but ended up failing all 3 attempts. remembering those that practically scolded and shot down her effort, and also seeing Scummer becoming more and more frustrated by the fact. We even got to see the first time she met Mendelsohn, who tried to help her from the bullies. Then we get a moment where Scummer runs into a group, who continues to tease her for failing the pilot test. Then one of them came up with an idea. They made a bet with Scummer of going outside Araville. Not wanting to lose them, Scummer went along with them and went outside. But things didn't go well, as they ran into a terrifying high-level eclipse site, Fitzgerald. He killed the others while Scummer was hiding. She tried to make a run for it, but eventually got captured. However, he didn't kill her immediately. He instead gave her the choice, telling her how the Eclipse plans on killing off the Callicite race, and offer her a seed to take in and obtain the power of the Eclipse. Persuaded by the idea that she could pilot Avidus, Scummer takes the seed into her. Fitzgerald then has her go back to Araville and began preparation for their plan. Going back into the present, the group starts feeling the ground shake and a loud noise. Navigator deducted that the noise came from the buried colossi. It was a sound that was cutting into Navigator so much that he started forming tears. You could say this was due to the abilities that Callicites are born with. Baba asked Navigator about what is it like to link with a Colossus, to which he responded to it as a blissful feeling. Barbara felt a little jealous as she wished she could link up with Lepidus. Even though she couldn't communicate with it, she's still happy talking to it to the point where it allowed her to pilot it. While the group was engaging in the conversation, more Eclipsites sold up to attack, most likely being more former Aurorians to which Carlene wanted to quickly end their suffering. While they were busy handling Eclipsites, another group was making their way through Araville as well. This was the True Order members that Victoria sent out, Frost alongside with Pac and Nails. First up, Pac, described to be an honest and flexible member, always have a floating ring around her called Hunting Stone. When she was a child, seeing her father hid in a ruin from Eclipsites, it was in there she found a statue and wished for power to protect her and her family. The next thing she knew, a floating ring appeared and followed her around. Although it was a powerful weapon that helped Pac take out her enemies, she also found it annoying how no matter what she did, she could never get rid of it, as it always followed her no matter where she went. This led her to join the True Order, hoping to find answers to help her keep Hunting Stone from following her. Although she was never able to get rid of Hunting Stone, she enjoyed her time joining True Order and even found herself looking up to Victoria. Next is Nails, a cadre of True Order with strong beliefs. Nails used to be a noble from Lumopolis, living regularly and receiving education like any other noble, until one day his rare blood was exposed. A powerful ability of his that came from his blood, though it came at a price as he repeatedly hurt himself to prevent from losing control. Once that happened, he was kicked out of the flowing city and was forced to wander around. That was when he ended up joining the True Order, where Victoria welcomed him with open arms. It was there he decided to devote his loyalty to Victoria and the True Order. This group was going around extracting seeds from dead Eclipsites, and then feeding them into Frost's suitcase, Wispy. Pac, showing displeasure like always, thought about just having Nails carry the seeds as he didn't want to deal with Wispy, but Frost explained how Orion shouldn't touch the seeds. Although Luminatics helps them resist the seeds, long-term exposure will eventually corrupt them. After fighting through so many Eclipsites, Navigator and the others finally made their way to Avidus, in terrible shape no less from the cannon. But before they could go in to look for Scummer, out comes Forsaken to greet them. Navigator was trying to get her to speak about what she was up to, but all she cared about was how Navigator didn't turn into an Eclipsite. Since she was frustrated with everything she did to Eve and it was saying out her mouth, went on to attack her, but it didn't affect her in any way, to the point where she even sent him flying without any effort, showing how much of a formidable foe she was to them. Not feeling like dealing with them herself, Forsaken called out a high-level Eclipsite to fight them, Madhorn, who turned out to be the one Hero dealt with back when they was in Mantis, that Forsaken reanimated with her experiments. After they managed to deal with the revived Eclipsite, Forsaken took the chance to approach Navigator, since it blocked her way but still couldn't overcome her and got sent flying again. Forsaken continues to be curious about how the seed was removed from Navigator. He tried to make a trade with her by demanding that she tells him why she tried to turn him into an Eclipsite, but Forsaken felt no need to answer his question. That's when Vice came out and admits that she was the one who extracted the seed out of him. Forsaken, becoming angry, took Vice hostage until she let her go when Navigator promised to tell her what happened to the seeds, about how Frost took it from him and told him about how it turns Orions into Eclipsites, demanding she tells him why she would conduct such experiments. That's when they heard a loud boom, indicating that Avidus had finally perished. As Navigator continued to be frustrated at Forsaken, she mentioned that he should come inside to see his old friend, before returning back into Avidus herself. That made Navigator realize that Scumman is still alive. And that's it for episode 9. Navigator's story with Scumman isn't over yet, as he's currently hanging on by a thread, and Forsaken is scheming up something with her. You could say this is fully the moment we begin to lock in with the story, as we continuously waited on Toradol to update more episodes as this game goes on. Granted, I don't see myself as a highly popular Alchemy Stars content creator within the community, but I still enjoy this game nonetheless, to the point where I'm continuing to make these content. And it's always happy that no matter how small it may be, folks are actually coming in and watching my videos. I'm hoping to find the time in picking up the pace to upload more main story videos to catch up with the game. In any case, I hope to see you guys soon. Until then, may the truth be with you.